"But how?" I said. "How what?" answered Valentine. "How did this happen?" "I think Mr. Harkin should answer that question." "Harkin? What's he got to do with it? He's just a fool." Valentine laughed. "You know, it's quite ironic, you two walking together, the man who would save the world with the man who ended it." Harkin started to laugh, but this time his laughter was different. It was not his usual joyness, but this type of laughter one does when one is afraid of being found out. A nervous gesture. "You see, my dear James, the man you have shared such intimate moments with, the man to whom owes you his life, is the same man who took so many. He is responsible for this dead city and all the dead cities you see around you, and soon he shall be responsible for the dead earth." I turned to look at the red-haired man crouching on the floor, weeping with laughter, and back again at the flaky face of Valentine. Was this another of his tricks? And yet I did not believe so. I pushed him further. "What is this you speak of?" "Tell him, Harkin, or end your life I will." Harkin stood up and rubbed his hands together. "Sorry, laddie. Was me, I'm afraid. It was all meant to be a secret, you see. I worked at a military base, working on chemical warfare. It was late and I was watching the TV. I was checking my lottery numbers. And I had the first number, then the second. I couldn't believe my luck. And then I had all six. I was a millionaire. I jumped up and down. I looked towards the room where some of my colleagues were testing some of the chemical reactions. Then I sat down. I couldn't believe it. My life was to be so different. You see, I always had to work so hard, so hard. My wife had left me a year before because I spent so much time at work, but she didn't understand. Always there, I was sitting at my desk, a pan of lights and buttons in front of me. I don't know what happened. Some alarm, I think, went on. It wasn't that unexpected, but with all the excitement I'd forgotten the order of some buttons I had to press. Now it seems so trivial. How just one button pressed out of sequence could cause so much chaos. The next thing I knew, I heard a massive explosion and turned to the room behind the glass and saw a green vapour in the air. I could see the faces of my colleagues as their faces began to melt, as they placed their hands on the glass, banging for me to let them out. I was so afraid of what I saw, what I had done. I bolted it. I was gone. I jumped in a lorry, drove it some miles away and got out, still clinging onto my lottery ticket. When the white fog surrounded the city, I heard more explosions. I looked at Harkin, and for the first time he had made some sense. I now began to understand how he had become this fool who bumbled about his busy life and his rumbling stomach. I looked at Valentine, who smiled wryly, and then back to Harkin, who in his hand had produced a winning lottery ticket. It flapped about the wind until he let it go off and it floated away. No use to me now, I guess. Valentine continued the story. "You see, Mr. Bishop, I told the truth, and you stopped me from killing this man. Do you regret it now?" "Oh no, don't answer. I think it's far better you keep such thoughts to yourself. But there is one more thing you need to know. Maybe this will heal over your wounds, your pain of losing your dear Jenny. The chemicals that had seeped into the atmosphere were genetically modified bacteria with nuclear potential radiance. Means to be used in the warfare. The only problem is they were only meant to target the enemy, but this work had started as yet, so the genetic pattern it has is mankind. So slowly and surely it'll wipe out every living creature. But you and I and Harkin are all okay." Valentine smiled. "Oh, Mr. Bishop, ignorance is such bliss, is it not? What makes you think we are all okay?" "I've already seen those affected by the disease." "James, dear boy," said Harkin. "It was a bacteria which was genetically modified to attack at a different rate according to the DNA structure it entered upon. The fog had already been breathed into your lungs and entered your system. Its work has already begun. Some would have died instantly and burnt alive. Some would appear to melt inside out. Some would have had the visual radiation poisoning and die slowly, and some would live as if normal, able to pass the disease on. You, my friend, are a carrier, But your death will come. How will it come? I tentatively inquired. The disease attacks the genetic structure of the body, slowly altering it. Some it happens within seconds, some hours, some weeks. The disease makes its way to the immune system and through body's waters. It causes lesions most times, and then it uses the body's natural source of acid from the stomach to cause the body to combust. A living, breathing time bomb, attacking inside out. But this disease is random. By its own nature, it is living, and its death has many different names. You see, Mr. Bishop, I've chosen to end the lives of those dear to me. Perhaps in their death I can see some hope. For myself, when my eventual death takes place, is it not a mercy to end someone else's life before illness takes them over? You and I are alike, Bishop. You killed my patients out of mercy, and so I do the same. You show mercy. Can a man be so warped about his outward image as you are about yours? What say you, Mr. Bishop? You want a demonstration of my absolute mercy? There is no mercy that I know of that a man like you could possibly show. Valentine whipped around, withdrew his gun towards his thugs, and shot the matron straight through the head. There! You want more proof? He screamed, with a demonic look in his eye. Before I had a chance to say no, he emptied the gun into the rest of his thugs, who ran but fell like animals in a hunt. You're mad, absolutely mad, I said. Look who's talking, James. Madness is just an alternative to sanity, that's all. And when the world has lost all of its, why should I hold on to dead traditions? Then we are all doomed. There is no cure, I said, looking hopefully to Harkin. None, laughed Harkin before returning to his tears. Why so pessimistic, James? We have life. Just now we know that it is precious. Surely this point I have given sufficient proof of. We have a limited amount of time. Is happiness measured merely by its longevity? You see down there, that city there, I've already been. It is a people who have formed together. They call themselves the Scrags. They have abandoned our way of life as we know it, and live a life as they see fit in these desperate times. Then I will die. We all die, laddie, replied Harkin, with a sense of guilt in his voice. I turned my thoughts to the view in front of me. There, as far as my eye could see, was a frog drifting to another city. There was not one single sign of civilization. All I could glimpse was the end of mankind.